am I lucky to be on the stage with today? Please, tell me a little bit about each of you.
Well, my name is Rico Newman. I'm a member of the Piscataway.
Nothing else to say?
You want to be here all day?
We got a little time.
Okay. I'm Gabrielle Tyak, the Piscataway Indian Nation. I am the daughter of Barbara and Joseph, and also the mother of Sebastian and Jansique, who's named for Jan Sipi. I'm a historian at the National Museum of the American Indian.
I'm Mervyn Savoy, tribal chairwoman for Piscataway Canoe Tribe.
My name is Natalie, standing on the Rod Proctor. I am Wild Turkey Clan, Cedarville Band of Piscataway Indians. I serve as the executive director for the Cedarville Band of Piscataway Indians Incorporated, which has the Piscataway Indian Museum and Cultural Center. I also serve as the tribal chairwoman for the Cedarville Band. Thank you.
Thank you for all being here tonight. So the concept of place, the importance of place, what does it hold within Piscataway culture? What does place mean?
Well, the place is home. Place is where history has happened, things that have taken place. It's not what we have today as a contemporary idea of place. It's a commodity. Land is a commodity. You look what you can take from it or what you can get for it. For us, it's about ancestry. It's home. It's what developed the people into who they are. Language, culture, tradition, everything came and stemmed from the land. It's the association with the land that develops all of these things for us.
Well, I think my uncle, Chief Billy Redwing Tyak, taught me that we're so intermingled with the land that in our sacred spaces, every blade of grass is a life. And so we know that when we're in this homeland, it's truly more than just a land disassociated from the person, but it's something that we carry in our blood. The Potomac River is a vein of Mother Earth. The lands that we have, the bones of our ancestors are so ingrained in those places that we actually literally walk upon and among our ancestors all of the time. Our tribal names, Piscataway, our own identity takes its name from the place. So we're one and the same.
Which roof and place?
Land, that's who we are. That's who we've always been. And for more than 10,000 years, that's our identity.
Our tribal center is about 2 miles away from our ancestral winter hunting grounds, which today is known as Cedarville State Park. And we are very blessed to be at that particular site because of what it holds and its meaning.
Thank you. So, Gabrielle, could you give an example of a living cultural tradition, belief, expression of the Piscataway Indian Nation that really exemplifies or represents these relationships people have to place and culture?
Yeah, well, we're very blessed that my grandfather, Turkey Tyak, was somebody who persisted in the medicine ways and in the spiritual traditional practices at the ancestral burial grounds that are known as Moyon, which is in Accokeek, Maryland. And we practice, just as examples, we practice 4 traditional ceremonies a year. We have Feast of the Dead in November, where we honor the ancestors. We have actually midwinter, and that's getting close to the time that we're in now, where we gather in that space, and it's a time of rest and purification. So, you know, the song, for example, that we sang that's from our cousins further up in the north at Wampanoag, but that it's a time of those cleansing winds, it's a time of rest. We have the awakening of Mother Earth in April, because we keep a covenant with the earth, with the beings that we're one and the same as. And so if we keep our traditions going and we keep our mindsets in the right way, then we know that the earth will wake back up. It's a relationship that we have. And then the green corn in August. and sometimes early September, and that's probably was traditionally and ancestrally the most important time to harvest the green corn.
As Teresa mentioned earlier, and what I encountered in early meetings with all of you to discuss and understand what Piscataway Homelands can be, the idea was conveyed that they extend far beyond Maryland in all directions, including all of the Americas in many senses. Nonetheless, the core of Piscataway Homelands can be considered what we know today as Southern Maryland, and this is because of particular places, sites, archaeological, historical, and contemporary, that are important to the Piscataway. And some of the slides earlier in the slideshow are portraits taken of each of you in places that are important on a personal level and also more generally to the Piscataway. So Natalie, speaking of a contemporary, relatively speaking, contemporary place, near Waldorf is your Piscataway Indian Piscataway Indian Museum and Cultural Center. Could you talk a little bit about that, what visitors would see?
Sure. The Piscataway Indian Museum was actually opened in 1995, and it is geared to teach children about Maryland's indigenous history starting in grade 4, actually through college. And what's very interesting is when we opened the museum, we didn't realize until we started having visitors that many of our children today are very, very, very removed from our natural resources. And it was difficult for them to understand a lot of things that we were talking about in regards to our connection to the earth, the connection to the animal kingdom and the aquatic kingdom, and all the other kingdoms that we move and live and have our being with. And so we began to incorporate an agricultural program as well. And so throughout the year we have several programs. In the spring we start with agriculture with our Three Sisters Garden. And then in June we have our annual festival in Powell. I think this year is going to be our 32nd year for this festival. And in the summer we continue with our gardening skills. In the fall we have our Salmon Fest. And in November we have an open house and a art show to celebrate American Indian Heritage Month.
Mervyn, you took me to one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life, St. Ignatius Church at Chapel Point, just up the big hill from Port Tobacco. Why'd you invite me there?
That was always like our home.
Right behind us.
That's it. It is the oldest continuously used Catholic church in the United States. And we had to fight California for that designation. And I had to remind them, excuse me, you were part of Mexico up until a few years ago. So therefore, Chapel Point is the oldest continuously used Catholic church. And it is on our tribal homelands. The Piscataway and its sub-tribes gave the land to the Catholic Church, 5,500 acres of land, to be held in perpetuity. 5,500. We're down to 21 acres now. Nobody told us that it was the end of the earth. But this is where our people were converted to Catholicism on July the 5th, 1640. And we have remained predominantly Catholic throughout. We have, of course, like all other cultures, our young people want to stretch their arms and their visions to take on something else or look at another religion. But predominantly the elders still continue to visit Chapel Point. And Chapel Point was the site of the first green corn every year. And people took off from work no matter what day of the week it fell on. Newspaper articles were written back in the 1800s about these people don't even go to work no matter when August the 15th falls on. They're at Chapel Point. We continue to do that. One of our biggest things was the field mass that we continue to celebrate at Chapel Point.
That's a beautiful place. Thank you for taking me there. Enrico, your portrait is a super cool photograph. It looks like you're hanging out in the woods smoking a cigar. But little do you know, you're steps away from a recently discovered archaeological site believed to be Zakaya Fort, archaeological, historical. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Oh, it passed. But I think everyone remembers. You look really cool.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the Sakaya Fort is very important, but I think I should add that the Piscataway homeland stretched quite a distance. I think the earliest reference I've ever seen to a name. And understand that many Indian tribes and places get their names from other tribes, and usually they're not flattering. But in this case, Yakio Kana Hagai, which was given to us by the brothers of North, meant the people who lived between the 2 points. Now, which 2 points they were talking about, we've never figured out. But we figured that somewhere between the Monocacy, Point Lookout, the Patuxent, and the Potomac is basically our homeland. And pretty much centered in that, almost like the hub of an axle, you'll find the Sakaya Fort site. And as Dr. King, who is with us this evening, so pointed out, it was a place, as they said, a place known unto them. The books will tell us this is where Calvert wanted to send all of the Piscataway, and I use that term pejoratively because it didn't matter which town you lived in, whether it was Nanjemoy, Nansemec, Patuxent, or wherever you were. Everybody had to go here for protection from the tribes that were raiding from the north, basically the Seneca and Susquehanna. Very strange that they were supposed to be rangers protecting that fort. But yet the Seneca and Susquehanna were able to build a fort within an arrow's shot within that fort. Rangers must have been on a break. But that is the central point of what was going on in that time in history. And what I tell some people, when I think about the fort, I think of it as a tipping point. And if any of you ever put something on the edge of something, there's a certain point that it will get to when gravity is going to take over and it's going to fall. And I think of the Sakaya Fort as a tipping point in our history. If it had a back door looking back to the past, then it would lead me back to 1634, March of 1634, which is an anniversary date coming up very soon for the state of Maryland. But when they arrived here, they were people that had a well-established way of life. It was successful, it was productive, it was efficient. It was marked in out by a way of equitable distribution of everything they had to make life comfortable for everyone.
There you are.
Oh, okay.
But
It was a good cigar, too.
we're almost done.
Okay. All right, but that's looking back. But within a very short period of time, we're talking 50 years between 1634 and when the fort became a necessity, not a reality. And during that period, you had a short period of accommodation, then you had suddenly an accretion of land being taken. Then when you look through the front door going forward, in very short order, the Tariq said, I gotta leave. This is homeland. And he was leaving his homeland for the same reason that Europeans had left theirs to come here, for safety, to get away from oppression. But he said, I can't explain it anymore, I can't justify it, I have to leave. And he goes across the river. Many did not go. And what wound up happening to them is a complete alienation away from their homeland. And in short order, as we moved into the 19th century and into the 20th century, you have marginalization that wound up having complete social isolation of Native people to where we were basically written out of history. Everybody believed that we did the old trick of drinking the Kool-Aid and catching the meter and going went someplace else. But fortunately, there's enough documentation that hung around that we were able to glean from records that would prove that we are the successors to the interests of the people known as Piscataway.
Well, thank you. That's a beautiful note to everybody. And I'd like to invite you to the podium, return the favor, and invite you to the podium for the Governor's proclamations and to celebrate this 2013 Alta Award in the category of Place, Piscataway Homelands, People, Culture, and Traditions. Thank you.